Okay, I think we're ready to get started. Are we good? Right on time. Alarm goes off right on time. It's 7:00. Are they ready up there? Okay. Thumbs up. Okay. Welcome to the 2024 Milan Board of Education Meet the Candidates Forum. Your candidates are George Elder IV, Carrie Karvonen-Gutierrez, Cassie Pryor, and Gary Taepke. Thank you, candidates and community, for taking time out of your evening to be here tonight, whether you're in person or viewing the recording. My name is Angela Thomas. I'm here on behalf of the Milan Area Chamber of Commerce, and I will be your host this evening. The format tonight will go as follows. Each candidate will have 10 minutes to respond to 5 prepared questions in speech format. These 5 questions will remain on the screen while all candidates respond. There will be a 2-minute warning, a 1-minute, and a 30-second warning for the candidates during this section. Following the prepared responses, questions were accepted from the community using a Google survey. Each candidate will be allowed up to 2 minutes to respond to each question. There will be a 30-second warning for the candidates during this section. As appropriate, similar community questions were combined into a general question on a specific topic. There is a 2-hour limit for this forum, so it's possible that not all community questions will be asked. We are ready to begin. Mr. George Elder IV, you will start your response to the 5 prepared questions.
Hello, I'm George Elder IV. I'm 45 years old and I have been a Milan resident for the last 15 years. I am a single father with 2 daughters that both live with me and attend Milan High School. Since my daughter started school here in Milan, I have been an active member in the community and have attended the high school board meetings. I think that I bring a different view to our school board and it can benefit our community. I grew up in a small town in West Sunbury located in Southwest Pennsylvania. I graduated high school in 1998 and I graduated school in 1998 and joined the Marine Corps, where I was medically retired in 2018. During my time in the Marines, I was a tanker and oversaw a training platoon that consisted of 4 tanks and 18 Marines. I also received my bachelor's degree in computer forensics from Slippery Rock University. I have been a federal employee in Ann Arbor since 2017. The role and responsibility of school boards in Michigan are spelled out by the Michigan Association of School Boards. These include goal setting, both short-term and long-term, establishment and developing curriculum, staffing, and evaluating policies, as well as assessing and determining the facility needs of the district, and working cooperatively with the superintendent, which also involves the recruiting, hiring, and evaluation of that person, the reviewing of the budget submitted by the superintendent to ensure that it satisfies both the district goals and the funding priorities. I believe that the key of successfulness of the board management depends on establishing and maintaining a civil and democratic working relationship between not only the community, but including the stakeholders, teachers, staff, and student body and their parents. Stanford Will, the American financier, has quoted as saying, "The details create the big picture." Pastor A. Arthur Charles Swingle states, "The difference between something good and something great is the attention to detail." And Willie Sutton, the famous bank robber, has quoted saying, "Success as any endurer requires a single-minded attention to detail in the total concentration." In that spirit of detail, our district is made up of many different aspects of detail. We have our teachers, students, and our parents, along with our curriculum, programs, objectives, and goals. and our social and behavior needs, which can be both individually and collectively. These must all be considered when making the big picture decisions. Basically, this means that we must take the time to understand and research, analyze, and identify the array of details and the ways each policies are affected by the relationships between these details. And then if these details or policies were changed, and if they could or would improve the existing practices. This type of educational formality and policy transformation recognizes the importance of all the components of essential and invites everyone in the community to be able to participate and represented by the Milan School Board. In doing so, the representation of the big picture details not only come into focus, but they do so hopefully for the purpose of benefiting our students and their families. Based on some critical prevalent details and comparative data shared below, I believe that the biggest challenges facing Milan School District K through 12 are two dependent and interrelated social realities that should be acknowledged and that need to be tracked together. One has to do with the stakeholders and parents and to a lesser degree the students, especially those between grades 6 through 12, who seem to have a better grasp on the modern educational reality. Coming into grasp with the difference in the findings between the niche grades and the modern area schools and the summaries of modern schools quality survey, the other has to do with developing strategies that should incorporate the school out of school activities designed not only to raise the overall niche grade from between a B- and a B on average, and mostly important, to notably improve the proficient rates of mathematics and reading in grades 3rd through 12th, in high school graduation rates and in college preparedness. For example, the overall niche grades for Milan when it comes to the test scores, proficiency in mathematics and reading at the elementary, middle, high school levels, and the scores for reading is 54 proficiency in reading and 62% proficiency in math. Let's put it like this. What would it happen if your student came home with a 54% or a 62%? You as a parent would be called for a student corrective action plan so your child wouldn't be repeating the grade. By contrast, a summary of the Milan survey for the 5 areas surveyed, academic support, student support, school leadership, family involvement, and safety and behavior, revealed that the campus-based staff and parents, students between grades 3 and 6 tend to overrate the quality of Milan area schools performance, while the students between grades 6 through 12 tend to rate the quality more in line with the actual niche grades in the area proficiency scores. Before I get personal, I want to say that I love our community and it takes a village to raise a child, and my children are by far perfect. But no matter where you go, there is always that 10% of bad actors. While that 10% infrastructured our school board just because I am a parent that asked questions. A few examples of involvement the last 3 times that I ran for the school board started on August 15, 2018, when I questioned the reason why we hired a principal for Simons Elementary. It was brought to my attention that she was the only one going to be in Milan for a year in order to build her resume to move on. This bothered me because we had went through 2 principals in the past 2 years. My daughter was retaliated against because of this. She was sat in a table in the cafeteria by herself. So the supposed rationale was that they haven't found a place for her yet because she was assigned seating went by alphabetical order. Then my daughter was supposed to be in the aftercare. When her mom went to pick her up, she was not there. She was 8 years old and assisting Macy's mom in locating. They called the police on her because she was distraught. Perhaps an Amber Alert may have been more appropriate. Fortunately, a neighbor saw my 8-year-old daughter walking alone and contacted authorities. My foster daughter was also targeted and bullied, and this was reported to the principal by the Washtenaw County Advocate. She was being called a creepy foster kid and shakes. She would shake when she became nervous. With her concerns and the principal thought it was the teacher instead of the advocate, she responded to them, I have good word that she is not coming back next year. Let's keep them separated because we do not want to cross that bridge with Heike. The school district did nothing to protect my child in my care. The second time I was running for school board, it was a priority for me to sponsor and coach my daughter's little league team, and I had done it for the last 3 years in a row. The following year, when I was going to sponsor and coach again, the board member and one of her colleagues, who also was a member on the board, got a new president and a vice president voted in the Little League. Consequently, I was told that I was not allowed to coach or sponsor any because I was running for school board. The following election, I ran again, and the staff targeted Macy about a document that the kids were given in class about keeping secrets from parents relating to how children in the school prefer as their identity. My daughter knew it was wrong and brought it home to me. She was confused, and I leaked it. And the staff knew this. Again, to help out. So I scheduled to help out with the volleyball games for the week. There was a kid throwing peas down Macy's shirts, and she slapped him. Macy got suspended for 3 days. When she returned, again, she was suspended for 5 days. The kid that was supposedly hit even said that it was an accident. I had 2 parapros text me and tell me that the staff members high-fived each other saying that they cannot help if he cannot help out if his daughter cannot play. I learned this the day after I woke up from emergency hernia surgery that day. The past spring during a community cleanup, I had someone approached me and let me know that he heard from a teacher that they were going not to worry about Elder because Heike has his child this year and will have his daughter next year. We will shut him up. Obviously, I'll finish.
Now we're going to hear from Mrs. Carrie Karvonen-Gutierrez.
Everyone, my name is Carrie Karvonen-Gutierrez, and I'm currently a trustee on the Milan Area Schools Board of Education. I was appointed in 2023 through an application and interview process called in response to a resignation. The term for the trustee in whom I replaced is up, and so I'm seeking election to continue my ongoing work and service to the Milan community and district. I'm delighted to be here tonight so I can share with you more about myself, my experience, and my goals. I'd like to thank the organizers and Angela Thomas for moderating and our community for submitting questions. Like many of us, I wear a lot of hats, spanning roles in my family, my community, and my profession. First and always most important is my family. I'm the proud mom of 2 Milan Area Schools students at the middle school specifically, and the proud spouse of a paraprofessional who works at Simons. He's worked for the district now for the past 8 years, including time at Paddock and Milan Middle School as well. We are not native Milanites, but we moved here in 2013 seeking a small, close-knit community with great schools. Milan is that place and is much like the community in which I grew up in the Upper Peninsula. Milan is a special place, and every day our family is grateful for living here, and we recount our move as one of the very best decisions we've ever made. One of the things I love most about Milan is the focus on community engagement. As I've already noted, I'm a Board of Education trustee and have served for the past 18 months. During that time, I've completed dozens of hours of training on topics such as school board fundamentals and school finance. I've proudly worked side by side with my fellow trustees on important tasks, including oversight of the district budget, negotiating staff contracts, and the approval of a new building trades program here at Milan High School. I'm excited and committed to continuing this work. Prior to joining the school board, I was actively involved in the district in other ways. I served on the district-wide sex education advisory board. In fact, with Mr. Elder, I served in a role as health professional. And I worked with Mr. Elder and others to find consensus and common ground when it comes to these types of issues in our district. While my kiddos were in Paddock and Simons, I was actively involved in the many activities of that building. I volunteered in classrooms, chaperoned field trips, and had the great joy of serving on PTOs in both buildings, both as vice president and treasurer. These were opportunities for me to meet and make dear friends, get to know our staff and understand their needs, and make our community a great place to live. Beyond my Milan area schools related service, I'm active in our community. For several years, I volunteered at Aid in Milan and co-chaired the first Empty Bowls fundraiser, which is now the flagship annual fundraiser for that organization. I've been a Girl Scouts leader for the last 6 years, and my troop is now in 6th grade and 7th grade, and it's been a joy to get to watch them over the years. I'm also currently serving on the Milan Parks and Recreation Commission for the city. In my professional life, I'm a master's and PhD trained epidemiologist with experience and expertise in women's health and aging. I'm an associate professor of epidemiology at the University of Michigan, where I teach in both our undergraduate and graduate programs in the areas of epidemiology and pathophysiology. In addition to my teaching responsibilities, I serve as associate chair for my department, where I support our faculty in their career development and growth. And I direct an NIH-funded research program called the Center for Midlife Science. All of these hats have provided me with ample skills, training, and perspectives needed to be highly collaborative and effective as a member of the Board of Education. I have strong leadership skills, and my professional training as an epidemiologist has provided me with strong quantitative skills, which are valuable when working on things like our budgetary issues or reviewing data to inform our decision-making. Over the last 18 months, I've learned a tremendous amount about the roles and responsibilities of a school board. While common perceptions are that school boards control the day-to-day activities of schools, this is in fact, in reality, not the case. The reality is that the roles and responsibilities of a school board are much more fundamental. At the core, school board's responsibility is to set and oversee policies that create the infrastructure needed to carry out the educational mission of a district. To do so, we work closely with district administrators who then carry out and operationalize those policies. It is the job of the superintendent and administrators to handle the day-to-day management of the district. Some things we do, however, are that we are responsible for reviewing the budget and ensuring that funds are spent in a way that advance the goals and priorities of the district. We are responsible for setting the long and short-term goals of the district and approving activities to help achieve these goals. In the case of hiring, school boards do not take an active role in the individual hiring of staff, but rather oversee the employee who is responsible for that hiring, the superintendent. The school board works with the superintendent to review and approve decisions made regarding hiring, but does not engage directly in that process. Instead, the administrative team presents candidates for hire to the board, and we carefully review their experience and their credentials before making such a decision. The board is often tasked with making decisions that support the big picture of the district's mission. Making decisions is not something I take lightly in my personal or professional life. And as a member of the Board of Education, I keenly understand that many of these decisions have wide-ranging impacts. As such, I approach every vote with care and caution, and to prepare me for such decisions, I tend to lean into 3 key communication strategies: active listening, diplomatic discussions, and informed conversations. Active listening means that I must rigorously work to understand the issue at hand, considering not only what is said, but how it is said and in what context it is said. I will often paraphrase and feedback to individuals I'm speaking with and ask clarifying questions to ensure that I understand their position. Despite our differences, however, sometimes there are things in which we continue to disagree. However, I believe there is more that we agree on than disagree, and this is the premise of diplomatic discussions. I approach conversations seeking to understand our shared agreement and middle ground. When making decisions, I lean into the points of common agreement and understanding as the foundation of my decisions and the way in which I communicate those decisions to stakeholders. Sometimes situations arise when I'm asked to make decisions on issues for which I do not have the full range of expertise or understanding or knowledge needed. Instead, in those situations, I actively express humility at the limits of my own knowledge and experience, and actively seek out those with more expertise than do I have to help me make an informed decision. Tonight, we were asked to speak specifically to challenges facing our district. Before I address that question, I want to begin by noting the innumerable strengths of our district. Doing so is important because these strengths are the resources that we have to address our challenges. Milan Area Schools is the home to incredibly talented, creative, and dedicated staff that educate, care for, and advocate for our children. We have families who love their children deeply and are passionate and invested in their education. We have beautiful schools and facilities that offer space for our activities. And our community, private citizens and local businesses support our students, families, and the district overall. Most importantly, the Milan Area Schools is home to hundreds of enthusiastic young minds leaning in and learning about the world in which they live so that they can leverage their skills to make a life better for themselves and the community that they live. However, as with any organization, we do have some important challenges that need to be addressed. One of those challenges is the nationwide educator shortage. Potential solutions are vast and include many things, but one of the most actionable targets for us is to prioritize the recruitment and retention of highly qualified, innovative teachers. I'm proud to work collectively with my colleagues over the last several months on this issue. We've addressed several different strategies, but most recently, we successfully have worked with our unions to negotiate contracts that hopefully will address the need of retention and have really leaned into many of the things in which we value in our district. Another challenge that we face is the mental health and well-being of young people in our district and our community. As a public health practitioner, this issue is important to me, but also as a mom, an aunt, etc. In the educational setting, addressing mental health is crucial, and this is extremely challenging in today's environment, given that the recently signed school age budget includes a $300 million reduction in funding for mental health services and school safety. We've worked diligently within the district to address many of these needs for our students, including resource opportunities for care, and I look forward to talking about these more. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Karvonen-Gutierrez. Mrs. Cassie Pryor, you are up.
Good evening, Milan community. I am Cassie Pryor, and I'm a current Milan School Board member. I was appointed in December of 2023 after a resignation left a vacancy. I am now seeking election to continue making a positive impact at Milan Area Schools. I'm a married mother of two amazing children. One child graduated from ECA through Milan in 2023, and another child who graduated from Milan High School this past spring. I hold a Bachelor of Science in Psychology and a Master of Arts in Social Sciences from Eastern Michigan University. Since 2011, I have worked with the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services in child welfare, holding positions in protective services, foster care, and supervision. Currently, I serve as an analyst with the Division of Continuous Quality Improvement for the Children's Services Administration. Prior to working for MDHHS, I was a stay-at-home mom for 6 years. My family intentionally moved to this district in 2014 after I had a few very positive interactions with the elementary secretaries while visiting during the course of my job. Their personable and welcoming demeanor made me feel that would be a great environment for my children. Prior to this, we lived in the suburbs of Detroit, where my kids attended a much larger, more impersonal district. I wanted them to experience the supportive community of a small town school like I experienced as a child. I grew up in Harrison, Michigan, a town smaller than Milan in a school district just over half the size. I was raised by young parents who by society's limited definition were not considered educated, but who were my first educators, instilling in me the value of hard work, the importance of being loyal, and that honesty above all else is the best virtue. I have no close family who have been teachers or paras, but instead I have familiarity with the background workings of a school system. My father retired from Harrison Community Schools in the spring of 2023 after 37 years as their sole full-time building and grounds employee. Through his work, I witnessed many of the often invisible elements that keep a school running smoothly. The bus drivers who come in early to heat the buses so they're warm for the students, the custodians who not only keep our classes clean, but who set up desks, move boards, stay late because of events, and come in on weekends to help me out by getting my homework out of my locker that I left there on Friday. But also my dad, who would get up several times in the winter at 2 a.m. to plow snow and salt sidewalks so I could go to school safely. The skills I bring to the Board of Education, including making informed decisions in high-stress, high-stakes situations, and maintaining focus under pressure. With my children no longer in the district, it gives me a better perspective that allows me to objectively assess both strengths and needs of our district. Throughout my career working with families facing significant safety and security challenges, I developed key skills in patience, active listening, and cooperation. I am also highly trained in trauma-informed approaches and familiar with local and national resources to help families address both their concrete and emotional needs. As a parent and engaged community member, I invest considerable energy in supporting our school system. Over the years, my involvement in the district has centered around the sports and activities my children participated in, such as cross-country, track and field, swimming, band, the theater programs in middle and high school. I have taken tickets, worked concessions, built sets, managed timing systems, provided transportation during COVID when we didn't have buses available, prepared meals for sports teams and theater casts, and chaperoned field trips. Even now that my children are no longer in these programs, I continue to help when I can, recently assisting with the cross-country meet and working sessions at homecoming this past weekend. I also enjoy supporting various school groups by participating in their fundraisers and supply drives. Since joining the board, I've made it a goal to attend at least one competition for each sport, theater production, and academic event every season. In addition to my involvement in the supporting school groups, I serve as a member for the Greater Milan Area Community Foundation and recently became involved with Moving Milan Forward. I believe the role of a school board member is to make decisions that serve the best interests of all students and staff, focusing on fostering academic success, supporting teachers and staff, and creating a welcoming school environment. The school board must operate with objectivity, open-mindedness, and transparency. It functions as a cohesive unit with no single member speaking for the group, as decisions are made collectively. I view this role as a commitment to the entire community, recognizing that a school system's impact reaches far beyond those directly involved. A strong school system can drive community growth, attracting businesses, and contributing to economic stability. Over the past year, I have worked diligently to become well-informed in a short time frame. I have engaged in numerous MASB training sessions, studied board policies, contracts, budget documents, and rewatched board meetings from 2002 to the time I was appointed so that I could familiarize myself with the key issues. Moving forward, I will continue to prepare to make big picture decisions by taking advantage of training opportunities available, consulting with experts, seeking reliable primary sources for discussions, and examining how other districts have addressed similar topics. I will also strive to prepare for different outcomes to ensure that any potential challenges are considered in my decision-making process. Our school system, like many others, faces numerous challenges. These include retaining teachers, the desire to increase salaries despite budget constraints, ensuring school safety, maintaining accountability for parents, students, and the system, and enhancing the diversity of both staff and students. Continually, school districts strive to maintain or increase services to students, but at the same time are not able to rely on consistent levels of funding in key issues year over year. There's no area that demonstrates this more than in the area of mental health and safety, which I believe is our greatest challenge at this time. In the aftermath of distance learning, we continue to see the lasting effects of isolation and learning loss, which can hinder students' ability to engage with peers and thrive in the classroom. The challenge long-term will be to maintain current student supports like social workers, counselors, and school groups, even though funding crucial to addressing these issues has significantly decreased. It's my goal that our district will continue to make student mental health supports and safety enhancements a priority. One school topic that particularly interests me is parental engagement in the classroom and extracurricular activities. I believe a child's success is influenced by many factors, and when parents actively participate in their child's education, it fosters trust between families and the school, leading to greater cooperation. This has been shown to lead to better school attendance, enrollment in higher level courses, and increased motivation by the student. I am keen to explore ways to enhance parental involvement in the district's parent organizations and to increase community participation in school-run events even when their child is no longer directly involved in the school system. I think it is important to continue to support parents' rights that education begins and ends at home, which means a home focus on reading, character, demonstrating a positive view of the school system, and respectful communication with teachers and staff. I understand that a vibrant community is closely tied to a strong school system, and I am dedicated to nurturing this important relationship. My commitment is to improve student outcomes by advocating for continued exploration of diverse curriculum options, continuing responsible resource allocation to maintain current programs, and the updating of policies that strengthen our support and recognition of our staff and students. I am dedicated to shaping the future of education in our community and believe my ongoing contributions can make a meaningful difference. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cassie Pryor. Mr. Gary Taepke,
Mhm.
you're up.
Okay, thank you. First of all, I'd like to thank everyone for coming tonight and giving us the opportunity to tell you about us. I'm going to work without the teleprompter tonight. I work better that way, and rather than just reading, I'm going to give you the information based off of just a few notes. My name is Gary Taepke. I'm 61 years old. I'm married with 6 children. I currently have 3 kids in the Milan School District. I have 1 in Paddock, 1 in middle school, and 1 in high school this year. We like to cover our bases and make sure we look at all the schools. I'm the owner of ALM Contracting. I went to high school in Huron High School. I grew up in New Boston and graduated from Huron High School in 1980. Since that time, I've been self-employed. I've been self-employed my whole life. I'm currently a builder and a master electrician. I have extensive experience in building homes, building commercial buildings, modifying commercial buildings, wiring everything from changing receptacles in homes all the way up to when I was a young journeyman many years ago. I designed and installed the power systems and the control systems for 3 15 million BTU boilers in the Ford building in downtown Detroit. I did that as 3 years out of high school. So got extensive experience in being in that field. I was also I'm the former supervisor of London Township. In 2016, I was elected to that position, held the position for 4 years. I survived 1 recall attempt in the middle of the term. And when I was elected, we had a budget carryover of $1,200. I knew that going in, and I also knew that the previous board had approved specific expenses that I had to deal with as supervisor after I was elected, and the money wasn't there. So I have a lot of experience also in making tough decisions when it comes to budgeting. So we fixed those budgets, and when I left in 2020, after 4 years, the budget carryover was several $100,000 as opposed to 1,200 when I entered. So we turned that around. We were able to turn that around. I was able to make the tough decisions along with my board to make the cuts and find ways to reduce expenses. And that's what we need to do, I believe, in Milan schools. Question number 2, role of the school board. It's very simple. It's to educate and provide for the safety and welfare of our students. Now, how do we do that? It's multifaceted. We are responsible for the budget. I think personally that's an important part of making sure that the board has all the tools to make that happen. You have to establish policies and protect the students and staff. So student safety is also paramount. I'm very concerned about what happened just a few days ago at the homecoming dance. I'm not going to get into that too much detail. Honestly, nobody knows all the details on that yet. I think we need to make sure that that doesn't happen again. as far as making decisions, it's, again, it can be summed up in one word: research. You have to research the subject depending on what you're trying to do. So where do you go for that information? You have to look. I mean, obviously you can look on the internet, but most important, you need to speak with people. You need to talk with the superintendent. You need to talk with fellow board members. You need to talk with students, the families of students. See what they think, and base your opinion as a board member on what you hear from those people. That's most important. Yeah, you can have your own opinion, but you have to sometimes set that aside and do what's best for the community. And when I was supervisor, there were many times that I had to do that. I didn't really agree with the direction that they wanted to go, but that's what the community wanted, so I voted for it in that direction. As a board member, we have to be able to do that. We have to be able to set our personal feelings aside and make those decisions correctly. The biggest challenges facing the board, in my opinion, are right now the budget and student safety. I discussed a little bit about the dance, and the student safety was compromised that evening, and that bothers me. It bothers me extensively. So we need to do something about that. I'm sure there's investigations going on that I'm not privy to, but we need to make sure that it doesn't happen again, as I've said. As far as the budget is concerned, I have it in my hand. It's I was really kind of shocked to see the numbers. The district is in trouble. There's no other way to say it. Last year, the audited numbers, there's a $36 million budget. I don't know if anybody knew the numbers, how much money is being spent here in Milan School District, but it's a lot of money. And this current fiscal year, we are projected to have a deficit of $3.4 million. At the end of this fiscal year, we are expected to have a carryover of $76,000. So it's going from 3.5 million down to 76,000 in 1 year. We need to do something about that. I know a little bit about budgets, and I really want to be involved with taking this budget, picking it apart. I don't have the detailed budget in front of me. I have the general budget, which is just the totals. I would love to, as a board member, work with my fellow board members and find ways to fix this. I know there are ways to do it. Personally, I am not in favor of the sinking fund millage proposal at this time. Increasing taxes in this economy, in my opinion, is a wrong decision. There's a lot of struggling families out there. Yes, the school needs money. Yes, absolutely. Our students need and deserve to have a good education. But we have to take the community's condition into account. We have to know that they can afford that tax increase. And I mean, we'll know in November if they approve it or not. But personally, I think that the economy is not doing well enough to support a tax increase at this time. So with that in mind, I think the board needs to prepare for that and to find the money elsewhere. We need to find money for additional parapros. We need to find money for teacher retention. I am not in favor of any salary reductions, and if anything, just the opposite. As I said, our teachers are a very, very valuable asset in our schools, and we need to find ways to keep them. There aren't enough teachers out there as it is. So we need to keep the good teachers that we have. So it's the board's responsibility to find that money in the current budget and make sure that it's there to do the things we need to do. Again, I would love to tear this budget apart and work with the rest of the board on these numbers. I'm looking forward to that. Topics of interest to me, as I said, the budget and school safety. But another thing I want to mention is because of my experience, I'm really looking forward to the building trades program. I would love to be involved with that. With my experience, it would be really exciting. I would love to be involved with that. I'm really looking forward to that. In the early 80s, I was involved with Huron High School's building trades program. Every year they would buy a piece of property and work with different trades, and I was the electrician that helped the kids wire the house. And we did it all for free. I mean, the district bought the materials and stuff, but I donated my time. And they would sell the house, and every year they made a profit. Okay, we're talking about money problems. Let's put this program together that gives these kids a means to make a really good living. They don't have to go to college and go into debt to do it. It doesn't cost the school district any money. Actually, they're in the black, and the district made money when they sold the house because basically the house was built for free, except for the materials. So anyway, I'm looking forward to some of those things and the budget and the building trades program, and hopefully I'll be elected on the board and we can take care of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gary Taepke. Now we are moving on to questions from the community, and each candidate will have 2 minutes. There will also be a 30-second warning, so make sure you're paying attention to that. How this is going to go is we're going to start with Miss Carrie Karvonen-Gutierrez, and then Cassie will get the answer first on the next question, and it'll just keep going down like that. I can read the question for each person if you need me to read it over also. Question number 1, board responsibilities. Other than at formal school board meetings, how can board members make themselves accessible to the community and organizations in the community?
Thanks for this question. I think it's a really important thing for us all to consider, that we all have an active responsibility to this community, but especially the Board of Education. I think that we are viewed as individuals who certainly have an important role in the district itself, and that role comes in many different ways. Aside from being present, obviously, at school board meetings, I think it's important that our board members think about the many other ways in which they can serve their community. We do that through our many engagements that we already take on as part of our personal lives. But also something that's particularly important to me is making sure that I serve as a representative for the district. And this means being informed about the many things that are happening throughout our district, attending sporting events, attending theater performances, attending different types of competitions and things that are happening across the district. This is a way that we get to understand what is going on with our students and our staff, so we can celebrate those opportunities, but also so that we can be present and reinforce the commitment that each of us has to the community in which we are representing. I think we also have a role and responsibility to be actively engaged in having a presence within our buildings and getting to know our staff and teachers. And so I've done things like serve as a guest reader in 4th grade classrooms, going to different buildings and chatting with the teachers and their administrators and the paraprofessionals, and really making sure that not only am I there to represent the board, but also to make sure that I'm there to understand the many things that need to be communicated across the building. Thank you.
Thank you. Miss Cassie, would you like me to read the question again?
Yes, please.
Okay. Board responsibilities. Other than at formal school board meetings, how can board members make themselves accessible to the community and organizations in the community?
I believe that our school is trying to make strides in this area by offering activities and events for the community to engage with us. We have big red board chats, the community forum earlier tonight. I think that we have some issues with communicating the want of our community to come in and be part of those activities. The attendance has been small. We want to hear from you. We want to know your opinion. I think it's important that we work better to communicate the things that are available for families to talk to us, to see us, to learn about us. I also try to attend as many events as possible, introduce myself to coaches, teachers, parents, go to open houses. So they know that I'm involved and I care about what is happening in our community. I think that if we can't show that we are supportive of what happens in our district, how can we ask families and parents to get further involved and do that as well? I also would encourage families and parents to send email communications to us. I know it seems very interesting sometimes that we don't always get back to you the way, but everything that is reported or said to the board is taken into account. And I think that encouraging more of that I is the only way to get over some of the problems that we have been having with communication with our families. I would encourage everybody to continue to reach out. Come and see me. Come talk to me. When I'm at an event, please stop and say hi. I don't always walk up into your face, but I think all the board members would appreciate that as well, for you to know that we are there and that we care. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Gary Taepke, would you like me to read the question again?
No, thanks. I think I got the gist of it. So how can we be accessible other than at meetings? Two of my kids are involved in the United States Navy Sea Cadet Corps, and I'm an adult volunteer with the Sea Cadets. And it wasn't that long ago we stood in the cold rain and performed a color guard duty here at the high school when we changed the flag. There was a tattered flag hanging out front of the high school, and my daughter mentioned it. I believe it was mentioned to the superintendent, and we wanted to change it. So anyway, it was arranged. We did it, and it was really cool. I was very proud to stand there with my kids in the rain and change the flag. I would like to see the Sea Cadets do more things around the schools. I would like to see their presence more. As a board member, I would make myself accessible to make sure that those functions happen and they're visible and people can see them. As far as accessibility, I'm going to say the same thing I said when I was supervisor at London Township. Call me. I mean, if I don't, you don't see me at an event or whatever, give me a call, 734-355-4912. Anybody can call me, text me anytime. I am very accessible. That's it.
Thank you. Mr. George Elder IV, would you like me to repeat the question?
No, thank you.
Okay.
I think for staff people that really do a good job here in Milan. I see Mr. Gerbach walking through the community. I see Miss Ann Flores. She's the secretary. She's always walking through the community. And Miss Kenzel, she does a wonderful job. And she follows up and she stops and talks to the girls and stuff. And then another one is the bus driver. I see her walking all the time. I think her name's Susan or something. But I think them 4 people, if we could just do what they do, I think that'd be perfect, because I feel that they're very noticeable in the community around my area anyway.
Thank you. Ms. Cassie Pryor, you're going to answer this one first. It is regarding budget. What is your understanding on how school districts like Milan receive their funding?
So school budget is it's slightly complicated. So how our district receives our funding is a mix of federal, state, and local funds. We get a portion of it. The largest portion of it comes from not our local area. It doesn't come from where most people think it would come from. So when we are receiving that, the government has to decide on how those are allocated, and they walk through a process every year where the House comes up with a budget plan of what the schools get, the Senate comes up with a budget plan of what the schools get, and the governor comes up with a plan of what the schools get. And then they go round and around about what each school district should receive, like what the allocation would be. And finally, at some point, they come and they give it to the schools. They agree on the budget, and then that's the amount that we get. Unfortunately, the way that the budget system works within the state is that we have to have our school budget prepared and ready to go in the middle of summer. However, the government is not required to have their budget ready and available until October. So even though they start the process in January and you're hearing about it for months and months and months, oftentimes it's not finalized by the time the school has to get their budget prepared and presented to the state. So we don't always know what funding that we are working with in order to do things for the following year. At this point in time with the budget, I'm not happy with what the state allocated. I was hoping they would put forward a supplemental budget in order to increase our mental health and safety funding, or to at least give us an increase in our student foundation allowance, which we did not get this year. So we could increase some of funding in some of our areas. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Gary Taepke, would you like me to repeat the question?
No, I think I have it. Thank you. So how we receive the funding, I mean, the vast majority of it comes from the state. Lately, very little is coming from the federal government. I believe there's less than $1 million is coming from the federal government right now. Roughly 20 something million is coming from the state. And there's roughly 5 million, a little over 5 million that is local. So our property taxpayers are paying a good chunk, but not the majority of the funding for the schools. Again, don't want to beat a dead horse, but I think that asking our residents for more is a mistake. I think that asking the state and the federal government to step up and pay a chunk of that is a good way to go. I think our residents have been taxed enough personally. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. George Elder IV.
From coming to the school board meetings and learning that we got to prepare a budget, and then we get some federal funding, and then we get funding for each student, and then as the superintendents find all these grants and apply for them. But that's all I know about the money that comes in here from the school board meetings.
Thank you. Mrs. Carrie, would you like me to read the question again?
Yes, would you please?
Okay. It's regarding budget. What is your understanding on how school districts like Milan receive their funding?
So in the state of Michigan, the vast majority of the funding that comes into a district is through our state foundation allowance. This is a per pupil amount of money that we receive that goes into our general fund that is to be used for activities to support the educational needs of a district. In Milan, our general fund supports our salaries, our building maintenance, our educational investments, the supports for our students. A lot lives within our general fund. Mr. Taepke has mentioned the site sinking fund, and I encourage all of our community members to please educate themselves on that, because one of the values of the site sinking fund is it would provide a revenue stream whereby many things that we support currently off of our general fund could be supported, thereby opening other opportunities for our general fund budget to be used more directly for student support. As Mrs. Pryor mentioned, there's a cycle by which we work through our budget. Our district is required to approve a preliminary budget in June. That is before we receive our state level allocations. Then we have several times over the course of the year to amend and approve that budget as we learn more information, both about money that will be coming into our district through grants or more stable information from the state, as well as what our expenses will be. And so we do that January, April, and June. And then in August, we undergo an audit. The other thing I'd like to note about our budget is that we are not currently operating under a deficit in the Milan area schools. We cannot approve a deficit budget, and we are not in a deficit model right now. We are coming up upon looking at amending our budget based upon more information that we have since when we approved that budget. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Taepke, you will answer this question first. Student achievement. How do you feel Milan area schools should measure and assess student achievement and success?
Oh, boy. Well, several things. Obviously grades, but take a look at the declining enrollment in Milan schools and consequently the decline in funding. I know several people who are looking at or have left the school district for for various reasons, but the fact is they left. And I think that says something right there. There's something missing. And honestly, I don't know all the things that are missing, but we have to find out. In the parapros is another thing that we need to work on. As I said, there are people that are having kids that are having trouble in school, and there aren't enough parapros to go around to help them out when they're having difficult times in school. So I don't know. I think that's probably one of the best places we can look is better teacher retention and more parapros.
Thank you. Mr. George Elder, would you like me to read?
Yes, please.
Student achievement. How do you feel Milan area schools should measure and assess student achievement and success?
I think we should assess it. I do business in other communities, and, I ask other parents how they do it. Other schools have like early starts, late starts, or they open, have a tutor in the evening. And my feeling on this, if we can open the schools at 5 o'clock in the morning and not close them until 10 o'clock at night for sports, why can't we do the same thing for our children, that need help? I think we should identify them and give them all the options they have to get the grades up.
Thank you. Ms. Carrie Karvonen-Gutierrez, would you like me to repeat the question?
Yes, please.
Student achievement. How do you feel Milan area schools should measure and assess student achievement and success?
This is a tough question. And as an epidemiologist who lives to measure and assess things, it's tough with something like student achievement because this is highly individualized. I think it comes from both big picture and small picture outcomes. In the big picture, I think our goal for our students is to leave our district becoming a productive and contributing member of society and to be able to support themselves. This looks like so many different permutations across our student body that there is not one metric that we should be using to assess that. For some students, that's entering college. For some students, that's going into the military. For some students, it's getting a job or entering a trades program. Those things are hard to assess and take time. And so I think what's important to me, both as a parent, as a community member, and as a board member, is to think about the small ways in which we assess this through a growth model and to see the growth that comes with our students on a day-by-day basis. This comes with the smiles that we see when we pick them up at school. It comes when a student is able to engage in a program that they're really excited about. We've had dozens of kids sign up for the new building trades program, and that is a success and achievement. They're able to pursue something that's important to them. And just a little anecdote I heard from my son the other day, who regularly complains about math despite being good at it. But he was noting that he's had real struggle all year in grasping these new concepts. And he said to me the other day that he actually felt his brain click. Like he looked at the board and finally felt it click. And to know that he understood what that meant and to have that experience, that's student achievement in and of itself and really a growth model.
Thank you. Ms. Cassie Pryor, would you like me to reread the question?
No, thank you. Okay. So I think that we can assess student achievement through a variety of ways. Like Ms. Gutierrez said, it's not just grades, which are important, but it's also graduation rates, success at life, their involvement in activities. Do they feel comfortable walking into our school? Do they want to be part of it? Do our families feel comfortable being part of it? I think that we can boost individualized student achievement through specific supports, collaborating with parents to extend the support at home, because student achievement isn't just a school issue. We can provide all the supports that you can have, but it takes a collaboration with the parents and family to see that those supports come to fruition so we can have better achievement for our children. I think that we need to make sure that we are able to cater to diverse learning styles in order to meet the needs of our students. I'm proud that we're taking a progressive approach right now. I know it's been mentioned already several times, but the CTE courses to me are a phenomenal way for our school to go. For too long, country has focused on there's only one way to be after high school, and we have left a significant portion of our kids behind. And I think that by offering these programs, we are lifting those kids into achievement into areas that they want to go to when they're older. And so this is just the beginning of what I hope is a robust program here at Milan where kids are coming here specifically for these programs and these skills that they can get to carry them on into the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, question number 4, we are going to start with Mr. George Elder IV. School safety. Are there building-specific safety measures that you feel the district should explore?
This is hard for me because, you know, even going to Simon's Elementary, if we're picking up my kids or something, you know, like a dentist appointment I had for Macy, you know, I was stopped at the door. Everybody knows who I am. They would not let my daughter come because I didn't have my ID. I was not mad at them. I was actually praising them. And today, my daughter had dropped off a bag or left her bag in my car, and I brought it up to her. And I rang the doorbell and says, well, my daughter left her bag in here. And they're like, all right, can you put it in the doorway? Well, by Jean computer. And then the principal came and checked it out. So I think that we're doing the best we can with what we have. And you know, with my visits through the schools, I felt that them protocols are perfect.
Thank you. Ms. Carrie, would you like me to reread the question? Okay. School safety. Are there building-specific safety measures that you feel the district should explore?
Yes, this is a great question. I think there's a lot of work that all schools are looking to address to improve safety of our buildings. One thing I'd like the community to know is that we recently approved a new camera system to be used across the district to really improve our safety. It has many unique features. You can go back and watch one of our former board meetings where Mr. Girba shares some details about this, or you can speak with him or any of us board members. We'd be happy to share. This was a major investment in school safety and something that we really prioritized. Some of the other things that we have really worked towards and are dreaming about and hope that we can accomplish through a school site sinking fund is having enclosed vestibules within our buildings. It would be really nice if we could have areas that are enclosed. So before an individual enters a building, they have to be vetted through the office, and then there is a safe passage into the building overall. We also have interest in improving communication systems within the building, as well as continuing our ongoing training for staff. There is a national conversation about the best practices of how to keep our students and our staff safe. This is something that there is no easy answer. It involves investments in physical buildings as well as personnel and so many different things. And so I think it's important that not only with the building improvements that I've mentioned, we also continue to review and understand those best practices and respond appropriately. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Cassie, would you like me to reread the question?
No, thank you. This is of particular interest to me as well. The safety of our students is paramount. I think that we have made some great gains over the past few years with the funding that this state had given us previously. Like Ms. Gutierrez had mentioned, we did upgrade our camera system. We do provide yearly ALICE training for health emergencies. We have AEDs in our school systems, which if anybody was watching the last year was used to save one of our students. I think two of the things that are important to happen is the overhauling of our entryways into our school systems, into our school buildings. A person should not be able to piggyback off someone else entering that building and walk right in. You can do it. People have got mad at me. I'll pull that door closed behind me when I walk into school. You need to identify yourself. That should not be happening. Also, secure better camera systems for our buses. I do live on a main road. There have been more than one time that cars have flown by with that red a sign out, and there's no way to capture any images of those cars and report them to police so they can be held accountable for putting children at risk. And so those are things that we would really like to do. Right now, the budget doesn't allow for that. Those are big wishes with the passing of the sinking fund. If that occurred, that would be something that would be a priority. I think that also we just need to remain vigilant and work with our students to make sure they're in our families that tell us if something is happening, if something is going on. We need to make sure that we're all comfortable with one another so you can say if you see that there is an issue. I also believe that at some point, the school system should get back to requiring the use of lockers at the high school. That's a highly unpopular idea, but I do believe that.
Thank you. Mr. Gary, would you like me to repeat the question?
No, thanks. So, as I've said before, school safety is near and dear to my heart. It's one of the most important things that I am concerned about. I'm very happy to hear about the new camera system. That is going to hopefully be very valuable in the future. Many times that when my wife or I tried to get into the middle school or try to enter the school after school's in session, of course, we have to go through the vetting system. They look in the camera, they look at us. I have to hold my driver's license up. I'm sure all of you have done that. These are all great procedures. I'm very happy that they're there, but they can be improved upon. As my fellow candidates have already said, there are ways to improve on that so that people don't piggyback behind someone else. Those definitely should be looked at and make it even more secure. Another option that could possibly be looked at, if it hasn't already, is to either hire or allow volunteer off-duty police or former police, retired police, or possibly even veterans that have the time, if they have the time, to donate to walk the halls of the schools, having extra eyes in places where we need them. I know the teachers can't be everywhere. They're in their classes teaching. The halls are empty, and that's when trouble can start. So getting more people, responsible people in the halls and possibly even volunteers, I think it'd be a good idea to at least pursue. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, question number 5, we're going to start with Ms. Carrie Karvonen-Gutierrez. Policy. Do you feel that the Milan Area School District policies are aligned with state law and developed with intentions of applying all students regardless of race, religion, gender, or other protected classes? Is there any specific policy that you feel should be changed or potentially amended? That's a really long one. Do you want me to read it again?
At least the second half of it, please.
Okay, I'm going to read the whole thing.
Okay.
Do you feel that the Milan Area Schools District policies are aligned with the state law and developed with the intentions of applying to all students, regardless of race, religion, gender, or other protected classes? Is there any specific policy that you feel should be changed or potentially amended?
That is a big question. And I will start by saying I'm grateful that we have a policy committee within our school board who manages and leans into these types of issues. I certainly do agree that our Milan area school policies are aligned with state law. We have a great relationship with legal counsel that is retained by the district to help us make sure that our policies are aligned with state law and the way in which we implement those policies are aligned with state law. We call on them regularly. Most of us are not legal experts, and certainly that is something that's clearly very important. The second part of the question, I think, was about whether or not I believe that our policies are aligned with the intention of applying to all students. And in that case, yes, of course, I think it's important for us to make sure that the policies that we have meet the needs and appropriately provide the resources needed to the very diverse set of students and their needs throughout the district. And this is something that happens on a regular basis where our board reviews the policies that are in place, seeks the counsel we need to make sure that the policies that we have are appropriate given state law, and that we are continuing to review those policies as needed. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Cassie Pryor, would you like me to reread?
Yes, please.
Sure. Okay, policy. Do you feel that the Milan Area Schools District policies are aligned with state law and developed with intentions of applying to all students, regardless of race, religion, gender, or other protected classes? Is there any specific policy that you feel should be changed or potentially amended?
I do believe that our policies align with state law. Like Ms. Gutierrez said, we regularly review these. We're in the process of updating all of our policies to a new policy group, and they are being updated on our website. As recently as August 14th, we did update our policies to align with the new Title IX rulings to prohibit discrimination, harassment, and retaliation in those areas. As always, I would encourage any community input on policies that you, because they're all there for you to review. Any policies you want to see updated or changed, and talk to the board, communicate with them about what you want to see. I do believe that our school does need to look at the policies around bullying. As I actually reviewed it today, it looks like it has not been revised in about 7 years. And I know that that is an ongoing concern of a lot of parents and students at our school. And we need to make sure that we are providing the most up-to-date guidelines with the type of discipline and restorative practices that have become important for us to use in our school system. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Gary Taepke, would you like me to repeat the question?
There we go. I think my mic fell asleep. I woke it up. To the best of my knowledge, our policies do align with state law. I'm not involved, obviously, yet with establishing policy, but I have had several personal interactions with things having to do with the policies here in the district. To the best of my knowledge, they're in line with state law. I have seen no evidence of any discrimination in any of the district policies or anywhere that would indicate that the policies were not intended to apply to all students. I have not seen anything like that. If it's there, I'm not aware of it. As far as Ms. Pryor's comment about bullying, I agree 100%. Although this isn't necessarily in line with state law, it's a policy that needs to be amended, in my opinion. I think that it needs to be tougher. I know that there have been many kids that have been victims of bullying, and very little, if anything, was done about it for various reasons. I'm not going to get into that now, but there are improvements to be made in that area. But again, I don't think it has to do with state law, but it does have to do with policy. So thank you.
Thank you. Mr. George Upland.
Can you repeat the question,
Of
please?
course. Policy. Do you feel that the Milan Area Schools District policies are aligned with state law and developed with the intention of applying to all students, regardless of race, religion, gender, or other protected classes? Is there any specific policy that you feel should be changed or potentially amended?
I'm unsure of the policies, but I know that, when you come to sports events or, activities going on in school, you see an array of all different kind of people, and they seem all happy. I would like to see them all happy. And I have to agree with the policies because obviously there's state laws, they have to be enforced. And I think that they should all be reviewed, quarterly or whatever, to make sure that it fits every student.
Thank you. Question number 6, we are going to start with Miss Cassie Pryor. Current issue. How do you view the creation of a diversity, equity, and inclusion committee, and how do you feel it would benefit our school community?
I believe that that is something that the school system has tried to start a few times. People come out, are really excited about it. They volunteer their time with the school, they get involved, and then it goes by the wayside. I believe it is important to have groups and different types of organizations to represent all of our students and to advocate for the well-being and academic success of all of the kids at Milan area schools. I believe it would be something that we would need to continue that work on and not let it fall by the wayside. It's only if people feel involved and like they are part of and feel valued and seen, will they do and become their best selves. And I believe that our school system should be providing those types of groups to and intentional policies to help promote all the success of all students. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Gary Taepke, would you like me to repeat the question?
Would you please?
Yes. Current issue. How do you view the creation of a diversity, equity, and inclusion committee, and how do you feel it would benefit our school community?
I have heard the fact that the committee was tried to be formed at one time. I'm not even sure if the one exists right now, but I guess I don't have a problem with it as far as whether the committee exists. I guess I don't fully understand what the question is, but if they want to make sure that everyone is included equally, I have no problem with that at all.
Thank you. Mr. George Elder.
Repeat that question, please.
Absolutely. Current issue. How do you view the creation of a diversity, equity, and inclusion committee, and how do you feel it would benefit our school community?
I would think that it's a good idea. You know, I have 2 different daughters with 2 different lifestyles, and they just want to be fit in. You know, they want their lives to be normal, just like everybody else's. So I think that we could clearly benefit from a council with that.
Thank you. Mrs. Carrie Karvonen-Gutierrez.
Yes, I mean, I'm highly supportive of our schools, our district, having a diversity, equity, and inclusion committee. I want to note, though, however, this type of investment needs to go beyond committee level work. This must be a fundamental cornerstone of what we value in our district. The role of education, as I've said, is to train students to be active, thriving, participating community members in a world that is increasingly diverse. It is a fact that our populace is more diverse today than it was 50 years ago. And so we are responsible to have education and training that allows our students to prepare them for the 21st century and to collaborate with individuals from diverse backgrounds. Equity certainly is something that every single one of us should value in our district because equity is not the same thing as equality. Equity means that each student is provided with the tools that are tailored to them that they need to succeed in their educational endeavors. It means that we are not providing the same thing for every student, but instead we are understanding what the unique needs are of that student. And in fact, if you look at our Milan Area Schools strategic plan, it's stated that the district strives to expand relevant and individualized learning opportunities for all students. This is equity. This is what we're talking about when we value this in our district. And then, of course, the goal of education, as I've said, is to train our students to collectively work in a world that is inclusive and to work with others. This requires us to address inclusion as a cornerstone of our educational philosophy and needs to be started with community level work, but must go beyond that. Thank you.
Thank you. Question number 7, we are going to start with Mr. Gary Taepke. Budget. What is your understanding of how a sinking fund might help Milan area schools, and do you support the millage?
Well, that's an easy one for me. The sinking fund millage proposal is designed to be a source of funding for infrastructure, basically with the building repairs, building modifications, and things like that. It's not designed to go to teacher salaries and things like that. It's designed to help with keeping up the building, new roof, things like that, which obviously we need the money. We need the funds to do that. I think the second part of the question was, do I support it? Do I support funding for these things? Of course. I do not support this millage increase at this time. That's a 1.5 mil increase. And if somebody has a $300,000 house, it's $450 extra per year, and it goes on for 10 years. So that's $4,500 over the course of 10 years. We need to find other ways to come up with the money. It's that simple. I'm not saying we don't need the money. I'm not saying we have to try to do without. Everyone is having difficulty in these economic times, and families are trying to get by with what they have and cutting expenses. And the school district needs to do the same thing, in my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. George Elder.
Can you repeat the question, please?
Absolutely. Budget. What is your understanding of how a sinking fund might help Milan area schools, and do you support the millage?
My understanding is the sinking millage fund's going to help with building repairs, roofs. You know, they want to do security rooms or whatever, and they want to buy. They're allowed to buy school computers for actual learning and sports. I'm on the borderline because I don't completely understand it. You know, if it would go for building and the education of the children, I'd be all for it. We need it, obviously. But I think that sports should be taken out of it. I think sports take a lot of and adding money to that is just ludicrous.
Thank you. Mrs. Carrie Karvonen-Gutierrez.
Would you restate the way the question is worded?
Absolutely. Budget. What is your understanding of how a sinking fund might help Milan area schools, and do you support the millage?
So I appreciate this question, and I think it's an opportunity for us all as community members to make sure we do understand what we're being asked to vote on in November. Many of you may have been here earlier where Mr. Gearboss shared a proposal walking through the millage proposal that is available online if you weren't able to make it. There's also a really nice kind of one-pager about the sinking fund that you can use to inform yourself. I do support the site sinking fund, and I support it for a few very key reasons. I agree with Mr. Taepke that this is not going to be able to put salary money on the table directly, yet what it will do is it will free up money in our general fund that goes currently to support transportation, repair and maintenance of our buildings, IT, and school security and safety. All things that we've talked about tonight that are things that we desperately want to continue to develop and grow within Milan area schools. And by making sure that that money doesn't need to come out of our general fund, which is supported with our foundation allowance, which is intended to go to student growth and learning, we can then use those dollars to go we can use sinking fund dollars to pay for those things, freeing up our general fund dollars to go directly to the activities we need to support students. There's a lot of information that's available, and I don't have time to go through all of them. A couple of things I do want to highlight, however, the concern that Mr. Elder shares about athletic facilities. I want to make sure that the community is informed that this is about safety. This is not about improving our athletic facilities per se. It is about making sure that our athletic facilities are safe for our students and for the students that are visiting our district. So it would include things like resurfacing our track and so forth. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Cassie Pryor, would you like me to repeat the question?
No, thank you. So I just want to start by saying, yes, I do support the site sinking fund for all the reasons that Ms. Gutierrez said. And it is to be used for security improvements, which I've already discussed is a major concern for our schools with people walking in, to repair or construct those areas. We need funds, and we don't have them coming from our general funds at this time. For instructional technology, for transportation expenditures, buses are going up extremely, like almost double to what they were before. Because the new buses coming out are safer. So that's also better for our kids in our district. Just like Mr. Older said, we can't use them for certain things like salary and benefits. But again, if we don't have to use these funds out of our general budget, we can move those funds into the areas of salary, consumable equipments, better textbooks. Those are all things that we could use that money from that would free up that money in the general fund. Also to discuss athletics, those areas that we would be trying to improve is the replacement of bleachers. Right now, the baseball field doesn't have bleachers to sit on because we had to take them out. We don't have the funds to do that. It'll go without bleachers. It's not a necessity, but this would be something that we could do. The starting blocks at the high school at the swimming pool are unsafe and slippery. The kids can fall off. I know people don't want money to go to support sports, but if you truly think about how people sometimes choose school districts, they look at the school sports teams, and we are all concerned about declining enrollment. That can be a big investment to bringing kids to our district if we can support our sports teams. We have a very successful swim team, very successful baseball team, volleyball team. If we can keep those facilities safe where the parents will send their kids here, then that is a win for all of us.
Thank you. Question number 8, we are going to start with Mr. George Elder IV. District priorities. What do you feel are the most pressing academic priorities facing Milan area schools from elementary through high school? Please be specific.
All right, first of all, I want to rebuttal against Ms. Gutierrez and Ms. Pryor's. Why should we here in Milan pay for students to come play sports that our children want to play? And like Ms. Pryor said, that's an enrollment declining, having other people the kids play sports at our facilities. Why should us as a taxpayer pay for that? And can you repeat the question, please?
What do you feel are the most pressing academic priorities facing Milan area schools from elementary through high school? Be specific.
As I stated in my prepared statement, having a reading, let me make sure I grab it right. Having a reading proficiency at only 54% and a 62 proficiency in math, I think them are two priorities. And I think that we should start doing something about that. Because again, if my children came home with a 52% or a 62%, I would be having a conference on what do we do to get her up.
Thank you. Mrs. Carrie Karvonen-Gutierrez. Do you want me to read the question again?
Please.
District priorities. What do you feel are the most pressing academic priorities facing Milan area schools from elementary through high school? Please be specific.
I think in terms of academic priorities, we have to expand the way in which we think about academics. We need to make sure that we are creating opportunities for our students who will go on and engage in a diverse set of next steps. We need to make sure that we are having opportunities for students who will be prepared for college, be prepared for the trades, be prepared for a work position after high school. And we are doing many of those things. we need to continue to engage and build on those. We have recently approved the Building Trades program, which I've noted, which is fantastic. Two other things that I think we need to continue is improving and working on literacy across grade levels. Certainly, this has been a deep area of investment for our lower elementary students. Literacy impacts all aspects of our learning and all aspects of our functioning in society. And so certainly having a continued deep commitment to literacy across the educational spectrum. And then finally, I think working and focusing on practice-based learning opportunities for our students, having real-world scenarios where they're asked to work together and work in teams. In the decades that I've been in the workforce, I've never once been asked to complete something solely by myself. And we need to make sure that our students are working and thriving in a team-based environment, which will prepare them for the future. Finally, this isn't a debate, and I don't want to get into a debate, but Mr. Elder, I want to highlight that the impact of the site sinking fund will be to improve safety for our students, not to have them come here as athletes for Milan area schools, but to improve the safety of all students while they're here competing. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Cassie Pryor, would you like me to read?
Yes, please.
Okay. District priorities. What do you feel are the most pressing academic priorities facing Milan area schools from elementary through high school? Please be specific.
For our elementary students, I also believe continued investment in reading and literacy. We do have a very good targeted literacy plan here that we have been implementing and trying to increase those scores through the years. I think that technology is our greatest asset and our worst enemy. We rely on it consistently to get more things done. We need it. It's the way the world is going. But as we have things at hand so easily to get for our elementary students, it's a lot. There's a lot less involvement with the research that you would normally get to do literacy things like in the library and those types of activities. So it is a double-edged sword when it comes to technology. So for our elementary, I believe it would be literacy. For middle school, I know that this is not like reading, writing, arithmetic, but I think that making our students comfortable, learning about them, getting them, building their character, getting them involved in other aspects of the school environment, in school system, is important because that is such a hard time for any student. And with the effects of social media and those types of pressures now, sometimes we lose our focus. So if we can get our kids to be more emotionally stable and prepared to learn, then their scores can increase. For high school, it's also offering those diverse programs for learning. And I think throughout the different grades, active engagement in the item that you're learning is important. More activities up and out of seats. And I would love to be able to explore ways to do that at all grade levels.
Thank you. Mr. Gary Taepke, would you like me to repeat the question?
No, thanks. I think I have it. This question is basically a good review question because I think the answers have already been given, but we can kind of condense them all together. So district priorities, as far as academic priorities, in my opinion, for all of the grades can be summed up with teacher retention and more parapros. We have really good teachers here in Milan, and we need to make sure that they stay here and we can attract other teachers, other good teachers as well. And most classes need more parapros. We're definitely in need of that. As far as the higher grades, the high schools and specifically, is the building trades program. I am, again, in favor of that. I think that is going to turn into something that is really, really valuable. The days of someone needing to go through high school and then into college and get at least a 4-year degree or more to get any kind of a good paying job, that is just not true anymore. The trades, all of the trades are desperately shorthanded right now. I can speak from personal experience with that. Getting good electricians, carpenters, plumbers, heating and cooling guys. They're just not out there. The schools aren't producing them anymore. There's no reason why a high schooler can't go through this building trades program and learn these skills before he graduates and leave high school with no debt and enter into a 60, 70, $80,000 a year job or higher, depending on what it is, if they have the right skills. So those would be my priorities. Thank you.
Thank you. Question number 9, we are going to start with Mrs. Carrie Karvonen-Gutierrez. Curriculum. What positive attributes do you feel the South and West Washtenaw Consortium for Career and Technical Education brings to Milan students?
So I think there are so many positives that come out of relationships like the SWWC consortia. We've talked about how we are entering a time with an extremely diverse need of workforce. Mr. Taepke's talked about the importance of students who are trained vocationally. And so this is an exciting time, and it's also necessary that we make sure that we are meeting the needs of our students. In addition to exceptional training through college prep and advanced placement courses and core subject areas, Milan Area Schools really prides itself on our embedded vocational offerings, including agricultural science and the building trades program, as I mentioned. But it's important for us to continue to have advanced opportunities for our students across a variety of vocations. And so I'm passionate about this career and vocational training. And so the Southwest Washtenaw Consortium offers a variety of such technical and education courses at schools across our district, and it provides transportation to these students. For example, our students in Milan area schools can get training and experience in culinary arts, robotics, automotive services, welding, and among many, many others. Students get to learn through project-based learning, which I've already spoke to about the importance as being an innovative academic aspect. And they can advance their preparation for future jobs. And so this is a really unique opportunity for our students to meet their unique needs of what they hope to do in terms of contributing to the world in which we live, and also to be able to tailor their education in a way that will meet the needs that they have as a student. And so our participation in this through Milan Area Schools is critical.
Thank you. Ms. Cassie Pryor, would you like me to reread?
Yes, please.
Curriculum. What positive attributes do you feel the South and West Washtenaw Consortium for Career and Technical Education brings to Milan students?
I believe it brings opportunity to Milan students to be able to explore possible career opportunities before they exit high school. Also, we've talked a lot about the CTE in those programs here, and but those only cater to a small portion of our students. There's a wide variety of students that aren't interested in that type of thing. They want cosmetology, healthcare, computer sciences, and the Southwest Washtenaw Consortium does offer those options. I would like at some point to see those technical offerings come here to where we are offering those here for our students rather than farming it out. I understand that the infrastructure and the cost to that is reduced when it's in a collaborative area. However, if we were able to bring some of those programs back here, maybe an opposite style program of the CTE to get the other end learners would be valuable to the kids in our district. But I think that having access to that program gives our students so much variety in ability to try different things. And a personal story about it, my son never intended to be a cook, but he did a year of culinary training and ended up with a wonderful skill that he can carry, that he can be employed with if he needs to while he waits to get into his life career. And it also is a benefit to me and my family if he can cook and make his own meals. So I think that having those opportunities just to learn and experiment with different things is important for our kids. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Carrie Taepke?
So in all honesty, I'm not super familiar with SWWC, but from what I've heard, the training that is offered is sounds awesome. Culinary training and other technical trainings is needed. As I've said, the trades training is needed, of course, but with my personal experience with the Sea Cadets, the young men and women in the Sea Cadets have those same options. They have opportunities to get into different types of training, like culinary, and that is really important to have that ability because it helps to shape which direction they may want to go in life. They may not want to ever want to be a chef until they try it. They really love it. Or they might decide, I've always wanted to be a chef, and they try it and it's just not for them. So it's important to have these options available to the kids so that they can at least get into it and try it. So I'm in support of it 100%.
Thank you. Mr. George Elder?
I want to revisit the sports thing. She said it'd bring more students from school choice. We're talking about diversity, equity, inclusion. What about the kids here in Milan that can't make the team because of the coaches having friends coming from students from others out of school from choices? You know, you don't know what it's like to sit there and watch your neighbor girl bawl her eyes out because she didn't make the team because somebody from school choice came and was better than her.
Thank you. Question number 10 is going to be our final question. We're going to start with Miss Cassie Pryor. Current issues. Do you believe the district should reconsider using the Big Red's name? Is this name appropriate and does it properly represent diversity, equity, and inclusion?
This is a hot button topic. We moved to the district after the original change of the name, and I had experience with it only because I happened to buy a T-shirt that had an old spear on it, and I went to a community I didn't know, and I went to, I think it was some farm stand, and the lady's like, "You can't wear that shirt," and I said, "Well, what do you mean?" And she's like, "Well, we changed our mascot, and people will just be very angry if you wear that anywhere." I didn't realize that had happened. I think that was traumatic. From what I got from that interaction was it was traumatic for this district. But I also recognize that name is it is related to where we came from as a district who was called, I think it was actually, I actually don't know what we were before, because I know us as the Big Reds. But I think using that in context of the way we use it now is we're the big red M's, the big red birds. We have a big tree for I don't think that the context is the same on how we use that terminology. But I still am cognizant if there's people out there that feel that way. I want to recognize that is something that hurts them. And I don't want them to feel that our district is purposely trying to use a Big Red's name to make their culture reflected badly. So I think that it would be something that the community, if it was a big thing, would have to revisit again, but I would be cautious that it would be traumatizing again to the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Carrie Taepke, would you like me to repeat the question?
Yes, would you please?
Yes. Current issues. Do you believe the district should reconsider using the Big Red's name? Is this name appropriate and does it properly represent diversity, equity, and inclusion?
Well, I wasn't involved with the name change or any of the name changes, but I have seen several districts make changes to try to make people happy because someone thought they were offended, and obviously no one wants to offend people, but Um, I have seen pictures of a Native American, and that's been taken away. And we're all familiar with the Native American being taken off of the butter package. And all of the packages that have these wonderful people represented on their packaging, that they take the people away. And it makes me wonder, why are we taking these people away? We're not degrading them by having their picture there. We're celebrating them. So I don't know who was hurt by that, by the name change, but my personal opinion is, unless it's directly derogatory and hurts someone, what harm is it doing? Especially if it's designed to lift people up and help people to remember our past. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. George Elder the fourth.
Your question, please.
Absolutely. Current issues. Do you believe the district should reconsider using the Big Red's name? Is this name appropriate, and does it properly represent diversity, equity, and inclusion?
I don't even know how to answer this question. Everything offends everybody nowadays. You know, grab a helmet. I don't know.
Okay. Miss Carrie Karvonen-Gutierrez.
So the question asked specifically about the Big Reds name, and I would note that we are still the Big Reds. Our name has not changed. If I am conveying my learning correctly from some dear friends who are from Milan generationally, the Big Reds name does not come from a culture of Native Americans. It actually comes from the linebackers on the first Milan football team who wore red jerseys, and linebackers tend to be big guys, and so they were the Big Reds. Since that time, my understanding of the community is that they adopted Native American mascots, Native American images and logos to convey their name. I feel that cultures are not costumes and are not mascots, and I am not of the Native community. I seek to make sure that I am participating as a member of society that respects cultures. And my understanding of this and other situations from across the country is that usage in this way comes with real hurt and pain to Native communities. That the usage of spears and headdresses are not meant to be used as an advertisement for a district, but instead are ceremonial, sacred regalia. And that's coming from a community, not us here in Milan, but the Native community. It's not who we are to want to cause hurt and pain to other communities. And I certainly think that if we were to consider revisiting that decision, we do need to address it with a DE&I mindset, considering the communities in which those are held. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That concludes our evening, and I just want to remind everybody to vote. Tuesday, November 5th, you can vote from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. So please remember to get out there and vote for your Board of Education and lots of other things too. Thank you. Have a great night.